Okay, good. So good night to everyone. Good evening. Today, Monday, the 8th of December. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. And tonight we have the political leader with us, and we'll be exploring certain issues that have been of concern to many Dominicans. One of such issue concerns the environment in the Debash area and the mining activity that is taking place. And also, we know that, just to touch on it, Doc, we know that, Dominica still remains on the list in terms of the UK list, not having visas. Dominicans need to have visas to enter the UK. And the reason why that is brought up is because a number of persons have said, look, we are not hearing much about it. The government is not saying much about it, but it's very much alive. And up to sometime this week, I saw a document where Dominica is still listed, although obviously there were two listings where Dominica was off a list and on a list, but the government must come clean to the people to tell them what is happening. And so we want to welcome everyone to Real Talk. It's a program, a social media program that we use to, disseminate information, to educate, and most importantly, to capture our youth, because a number of them have been saying that that's where they actually listen. So, Doc, what have you been hearing? What is happening around? Just our chit chat as normal. What is happening? Tell me. Tell the listeners. Tell the viewers. I'm not hearing you. You are muted.
Let me say a very good night to our listeners. It's great to be back with you on Real Talk, and say good night also, of course, and to those who are joining us. Certainly a pleasure. Indeed, it's been a busy time for us, as we continue to focus on the voter. We have decided that at the end of the day, you're going to need persons to vote for you, no matter what action you take, no matter how many press releases are sent out, no matter how many protest actions that you take. At the end of the day, what gets you into office is a voter deciding that, yes, I like this party, I like what they offer, and I can take a chance on them. And I think that is where we are. We have been moving around the island, trying to get persons to understand our point of view, to push forward the 10 pillars to economic prosperity. Already, we have a little victory in the sense that one of our major pillars is the minimum wage to $12, and the government, they moved it up to $9, which we said has not gone far enough. But it is clear that the government is listening to the plans that we have, especially for agriculture, for the construction sector, for tourism, and so on. And so it's a very exciting time, even as we approach the Christmas season. It's an exciting time to be able to reach out to our constituents and just to let them know exactly what it is that is contained within the 10 pillars. And so we continue to do that. We continue to let people know exactly that we are committed to doing some of these things, tackling, for example, the very high custom duties, tackling the high cost of living. And somebody asked me in our discussion that we had over the weekend, one constituent asked, well, how can you justify the $12 minimum wage, because the government is only offering 9? I said, well, the way you justify it is just based on the current cost of living conditions in Dominica. We have determined that at $12 an hour, if you work in a normal 8-hour week, you'll be roughly in the region of $2,000 a month. And it's based on that, when we look at the rental costs, the cost of the basic food items, cost of transportation, we actually did our homework, and that is the figure that we felt would allow the average worker in Dominica to be able to deal with this problem of the high cost of living. So if you're looking for justification, it is in that context of the very high cost of living that we are looking to make that adjustment to $12.
Yes. And very well. And to be honest, I mean, I've been talking to everyone, and a few liberals have told me, well, it also look like you're having a major victory because I mean, the leader is not the leader now is following, because you have made the proposal for $12 per hour, and then he actually had to come up with something, but he's not even sure what he's doing. And they say that it looked like really your plans and programs seem to have him shaken. And so, yes, I will agree that he's not following his. You have led the discussion on the minimum wage. You have prompted him to come out, but he didn't come out strong enough. But he actually is telling the people of Dominica that you and your team is more likely to be the chosen team to do the work. And so, just by responding and trying to do something, tells the people that he really has run out of ideas and he's saying to you, Dr. Thompson, and your team, United Workers Party Team Dominica, that you are most suited to actually get the people back on their feet. But as we go along with our program and talk, I saw a lot of little Christmas trees growing up and down, and particularly on Sunday, I saw government vehicles around. And it come to me, I called one person who was, involved in the activity. And I said, "What is going on there?" He said, "Well, it's the power and putting up Christmas trees around Dominica." And I say, "Wow." So there's no private sector support. They say, "Well, no, the power taking over and they're doing that." So it look like annually now the power block. It look like the private sector is no longer vibrant in that. I know some time ago they had a street lighting in Roseau. Roseau was heavy on that, and the private sector was very integral in ensuring that the city was lit up and it looked like Christmas. But now it looked like a big ceremony taking place over lighting of a tree in the respective constituencies. So I really don't know what is going on, and that tells us that really and truly that the private sector is properly whittled. There is no strength now to even do to undergo their corporate responsibility. So watch what is happening though.
Yes, indeed, indeed, and so it's very important, and I think so as well. I can add that the public are getting more familiar with our messaging, and they're listening. People are beginning to become familiar with some of what we are offering, and basically at the heart of this is how we are going to improve people's lives, how we're going to make life better for Dominicans, how are we going to attract our young people who are overseas right now working to come back to Dominica and contribute to the country's development. How are we going to do those things? And so it's a very exciting time, and I'm very happy that the message is going out there, and it's a slightly different approach from what people are used to. But I think at the end of the day, as I said, what you want is for people to vote for you. And so the way in which you persuade them is very important. And that if people are persuaded, that if they are convinced that you have a better plan for them, when the government comes with its largesse, as they will, they will want to offer people money and bribes and so on, that people will be able to have the fortitude to know that even if I accept what is our taxpayer dollars from this government, I can still vote against them because here is a better team with a better alternative. And so it is a very exciting time for us, and we just have to continue doing the work, quite frankly. There is no easy way around it. We must do the very hard work that comes with changing a government that's been in office for 25 years, and that is what we are committed to doing.
Yes, and I don't know if we can be accused of being repetitive. It is important that we sell our message, and when you do it over and over and over, it gets stuck in people's head. And to be honest, everywhere you go around the island is about the 10 pillars, and people are actually buying into it, and they would like to see the fruition of it. They would like to see the United Workers Party with Dr. Thomson Fontaine at the helm implementing some of these plans, and to ensure that the economy is put on its rightful footing. So rest assured that we will not rest, because we have been accused of sticking on one topic. No, I hope we are not going to be accused of repeating ourselves in respect to our plans. We have to sell this, I mean, someone who has a cement business, someone who is a mechanic, someone who is a florist, someone who does, construction, you have to promote your business. And as a party in waiting, to govern this country in the best interest of the people, we have to market our plan. And so I hope we are not going to be accused of being repetitive. We need to do this. But Doc, as we told the people, and then we'll be exploring the environmental issues taking place at the Debash area, because we have seen a lot of what they call, mining works going on there in terms of movement of dirt, of earth, and even the disposal of it. It is really, really, really not in a managed way. And so we are concerned, and a lot of persons are concerned. And I know that you have your ears on the ground, and you have been, dialoguing with persons who are conscious about the environment, and yourself being someone who is conscious about the environment, you are very concerned as to what's going on and whether supervision is being done. And some years ago, Doc, just before you come in, we were reminded some time ago when you had that pressure group, the environmentalist pressure group, and I think Mr. Afadan Mate did a great job, and I want to compliment him for having stood for the environment. I mean, he has been critical, yes, but constructively. And you must have concerns when you're talking about degradation of the environment. And we must have concerns when you're talking about just doing things irresponsibly and recklessly without supervision and without the proper ministry being involved to actually supervise the work. And so the Chinese are left on their own to do what they want. I've not seen any official of the Ministry of Environment in this area looking and seeing what is happening. And so, Doc, I know you want to react to this, and this has been a concern to you. So I would just like to hear your views, and the listeners would like to hear what you have to say about the mining situation that is taking place in the Debash area.
Well, so we have all seen the pictures, and it is heartbreaking. When you see the aerial shots of the area, the way they have actually gone in there and carved out, the trees, and you're seeing this barren portion of land. And I'm saying, but where is the copper? Because all you're seeing is solid is dirt, right? And they've removed quite a large quantity of dirt. The river appears to now be completely choked up and clogged up. And it is really sad, because bear in mind, Dominica is supposed to be a nature island. And if you're at the very heart of this, then there is a problem. So what I've done, I actually found in the archives an article going back to 2008, okay, that was entitled Copper Mining and Environmental Costs in Dominica. And the authors of that very important article were Emmeline Harris Charles and Carly Pemberton. Emmeline Harris Charles, at the time, she was the acting general manager of the Agricultural Development Bank in Dominica. And Mr. Pemberton was a senior lecturer at the Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension at the University of the West Indies in St. Augustine. So these are the two authors. And I want to read a little bit of this, because I think it's very important to kind of set the pace and to set the stage for what we are discussing tonight. Because there seems to be more than meets the eye with what is currently going on in that particular area there of Dominica. So it says that a proposal from an international mining company to establish a copper mining operation in the Caribbean island of Dominica could be highly favorable, given the potential for financial benefits associated with such a project. On the downside, such projects are often associated with environmental damage. The area targeted for this copper mine was a rainforest in the northeastern portion of Dominica, occupying around 12% of the island's total land area. A critical question is therefore whether copper mining could be a viable alternative to agrarian uses of the targeted area if both financial and environmental costs are taken into consideration. A contingent valuation survey of Dominicans and visitors allowed for inclusion of non-market costs in the analysis. The results indicated that a net present value was negative on the conservative assumptions. Net present value was sensitive to changes in the price of copper and inclusion. So basically what they're saying, they concluded that it was not worth the while to actually do a copper mine in Dominica because the damage would outweigh, or the costs would outweigh any benefits that could be derived from this. So let me read just one more paragraph from the introduction of this very intriguing article. In 1997, the Caribbean island of Dominica was confronted with a major decision when an international mining company applied for a prospector's license to mine copper in the northeastern portion of the island. Given the island's weak economic condition, the possibility of a mining industry in the heart of the rainforest of a tiny island raised the funny question of the country's willingness to pay a possible environmental price for such development. For its own reasons, the company later withdrew and the mining did not take place. Nevertheless, the question remains whether the welfare of Dominicans could have been improved with the mining of copper. All right. But, the part that struck me is where it says that the funny question that one thing was that they would pay a heavy price, heavy environmental price for going that way. That was in 1997. Fast forward 48 years later, is it 28 years later? 28 years later, we have a situation where this is confronting us again. Because notwithstanding the complaints, notwithstanding what we've heard from the authorities, it does appear that something more than the taking out of pumice or rocks for the airport is at stake there, because that place does not appear to have the kind of rock, for example, that you have in other quarries, well-noted quarries. So if it was a question of getting material for the international airport, it seems to me that would be more easily accessed with less environmental damage in other areas where already such mining is taking place. Because after all, we're exporting thousands of tons of that, just that same material to Martinique and to Guadeloupe and to other islands. So the question is, if we now need it, why can't we get it for ourselves? So it seems to me, just from my own layman understanding of the way this thing works, that there is more than just this question of trying to get material for the airport. So the question is whether or not mining is actively going on or whether or not they are preparing for mining. The aerial shots that I have seen is, as I said, is heartbreaking, because you see how exposed the trees have been cut down, the trees have been taken away, and you have these large areas of dirt, almost similar to what you see in the international airport. You have this large area that has already been cleared of trees and so on, and you wonder at what cost. Because if you're going to remove those trees in a catchment area for water, in an area that is sustaining our ecosystem here in Dominica, then you have a problem. And of course, why do you want to do this? And why do it now? Why is it that the government of Dominica is allowing that to continue in that part of the island? And so we have been monitoring that very closely. We are pleased to hear of a pause, but we need to move beyond the pause. We need, as a people, to demand that the government of Dominica immediately halts once and for all this naked, if you like, ripping of the natural environment of Dominica. This is at huge environmental cost. That's a cost that the country simply cannot bear. It is contrary to Dominica as a nature island of the Caribbean. It is contrary to what we are selling ourselves to be, the number one nature island, where we love nature, where we encourage nature, where we value our natural environment. And so we would ask that the government of Dominica immediately move to halt without any delay and forever whatever is taking place in that part of the island. We simply cannot continue that way. It is at huge costs already. Our rivers have been depleted. All of the silt going down into the sea, the drinking, the water source for the people, a source of bathing, and mark you as well, that particular area just below the Concord River was also a major tourism attraction. Tourists would come for the water tubing experience. The nice clean water, they would float down the river, the Pequot Bay area, and that generated a lot of wealth. So it seems to me that the costs associated with this should not should not allow that project to continue. And as it was in 1997, when it was determined that the environmental costs would far outweigh any economic benefit to Dominica, then that should be forgotten. But bear in mind as well, and our listeners should note that in 1997, this was going to be, if you like, something developed by the government of Dominica that would accrue to the people of Dominica. So there would be an economic benefit coming back to the people of Dominica. But under this current arrangement that we have with the Chinese, are we going to see any of that coming back to Dominica? What is in the contractual arrangement that has been made up with the Chinese? Is any of that going to come back to Dominica? And if they in fact going after, if that is what is going on there, if they're in fact going after the copper that we know for a fact is in that area, are they going to be giving those profits to Dominica? And I suspect the answer is no, because as far as the official position of the Chinese are concerned is that they are not mining in that area. They're simply extracting material for the airport. But what have we seen? The evidence is that, just apparently thousands of tons right now of dirt has been moved from that area. And it is causing an environmental catastrophe that must be stopped and must be stopped now.
Oh, yes, certainly. And I'm happy that you read this report with respect to what was happening some time ago. And the cost benefit analysis, in fact, would have shown that there's no real benefit, or the costs would have outweighed the benefits. And so this movement or forward movement for any future mining or excavation of our untouched, unspoiled nature of our land should be seized. And I'm happy that you have called for cessation of this. But Doc, in my own layman way of understanding the whole thing, I'm not, by the way, an environmentalist. I am not one involved in mining, but my background in agriculture would well tell me exactly what has been happening in the Bush area. Somehow should not even started, because one, this operation was too close to the river. We didn't what just a stone's throw from the river. Actually, I once passed there, and based on the excavation when it was falling, and actually sediments actually actually washed into the river, and so that's a problem. There's no buffer from the river, and so really I don't think any thought was given to this thing, and that scarring of our environmental terrain is really something that we have to really consider. So yes, while the establishment of a copper mining company in Dominica would probably bring some benefits to the people in terms of some employment, but who's going to get the majority of the employment? Those who excavate, because it has to deliver heavy machinery and actually a lot of automated machines going on, not necessarily depending on manual labor. So really, we do not have all of the equipment to undergo such thing. But what is more important is where this operation is taking place, and this area is somewhat now exposed to what they call erosion, to landslide, to runoff. Because remember, you have pronounced rainfall during that time of the year, and you can only be concerned that one day this road will be no longer passable, because the land now is bare, no vegetation, and you have no vegetation at all. And what is likely to happen is that a lot of erosion and landslide is going to take place, stopping vehicular flow and even access at some point. So I hope common sense will prevail, and that it is not just about a temporary stop, but it will be a permanent, stop with respect to halting this project. And I'm happy as political leader of our party that you are duly concerned and that you have actually sent that SOS call to the government that, look, save our environment and to stop what is going on right now. Because it really concerns a number of persons. And look, if you notice, I don't know when, since people have become so, the public reticence on that is frightening. I know you have a lot of people who are concerned about the environment. I know persons who have been speaking, and Miss Edwards, for instance, has been vocal, and a number of other persons. But by and large, Doc, you are not here in the Ministry of Environment or any personnel in the Ministry of Environment talking or saying anything concerning these projects. What is your take on that? How irresponsible they can be? I'm not hearing it all.
Yes, yes. One of my
Right.
concerns in that regard is the silence of the Ministry of Planning or the Physical Planning Division. I'm made to understand and subject to correction that planning permission was not granted for that particular extraction of material in that area. And therefore, why is it that the planning division, under their own right, why are they not able to shut this down? Because they can. If you try to put a little piece of house on your house, a room on your house, they come and shut you down. If you try
Right.
to open a building or build something without informing them and getting permission, you are shut down. So why it is something that can cause irreparable harm, that is causing irreparable harm, particularly to the communities of the Kalinago community there, the people in Concord and Pigo and so on, causing huge environmental impact. Why it is the physical planning unit is not moving in. And it is clear on the section 17.1 of the Physical Planning Act. It prohibits any person, or for that matter, any company, from carrying out any development of land except under and in accordance with the terms of a development permission that is granted by the Development and Planning Authority prior to the commencement of such development. So that appears to me to be a flagrant violation of Section 17.1 of the Physical Planning Act. If, as we are told, physical planning has not granted permission, then flagrant violation, because the Act clearly states that any person wanting to develop land must receive that permission. They must receive a development permission from the Physical Planning Authority. And from what we're able to determine, that has not been done. So we are very much concerned about this blatant disregard of the Physical Planning Act. And as they're claiming for the International Airport project, and also you would want to think that in the planning for the airport, they would have looked at this. And but as I said, if you're looking for material, for stones, for quarry, we have some of the best in Corley Hill, even down in Sufre area. These are already designated quarry sites that have been feeding construction in the French Islands over many, many years. We have lost, I believe, literally hundreds of millions of dollars because from what I'm told, we are practically giving away all of that material to the people in the French Islands. And so the question then becomes why it is that they have not, in fact, received planning permission, and whether this thing can continue like this. And so given the tremendous damage that we already seen from this, there should be no question that project should be shut down. There's too much of a cost to pay. And if you're building an international airport where you're going to be selling a nature island, it makes no sense that you get the airport and at the end of the day, you have nothing to offer to the tourists that you hope to come. And we are seeing, just based on the initial work that has been done there in the Demoche area, we are seeing the tremendous destruction, the tremendous impact already is having on the environment, on our ecosystem, on the rivers. And mark you, these ecosystems, they are well integrated. We don't always fully understand the way they work, but our rainforest, our live trees and so on, they're all connected. And when you destroy, in the name of progress, when you destroy this, that's like what you are doing, then that calls for immediate action. And the government of Dominica should be morally bound to immediately shut this down. The physical planning division, the head of the physical planning unit, has the authority under legislation to shut this project down, and it should be shut down.
Yes, I'm happy for this call again, and you have reiterated. And not only that, Doc, I've been traveling. For the past couple of weeks and in recent months, I've been traversing this area very frequently. And not only just about material taken from there to take to the airport, but also there's what you call indiscriminate dumping, just close lower down, going down to the going down to this village in Hatton Garden there, or yes, Hatton Garden area there. And I mean, and what has been happening is that the indiscriminate dumping involves raising the river bank. And so when you look at a selling spot where they have been dumping these deposits, soil deposits, and so what you find is that anytime you're going to have what they call a blockage of that river, and subsequently we're going to have a loss of agricultural land, because when that flooding take place, it was going to wash away the topsoil, the rich soil of the farmers downstream, and that is that is a concern. And I don't know what it is in this, and why is it that the planning division could not have found themselves, even if they did not give planning and permission, but at least they should be observing what is happening and should give some guidance, because what I'm seeing close to this riverbed is a disaster waiting to happen. Because should all that sediment get into that river, when you have heavy rainfalls and that river overflows its bank, it's just a matter of sedimentation lower down. And most times what you're going to find happening is that the farmer land is going to be spoiled, and he or she is not going to be able to use their land in quick time. So all these little environmental concerns are what we're talking about, and I hope common sense will prevail, and this government who's been very obstinate or rather stubborn must get, and they are defiant in their action, not being aware that it's not about what you want to show people you want to do. It's just being conscious about the environment and being environmentally responsible. And that's what we're talking about. We're not against any project, but that indiscrimination of dumping materials here and everywhere is not good. And so one person is saying that Mother Nature is shedding tears every day in the Northeast. Yes, the Northeast for sure is crying out for help, and we are just one of the few voices echoing that help again, that song of call for the government to cease any sort of operation from any company in this area, Doc.
Yes, indeed. So and then in addition to that, there is also the question of the environmental impact study, right?
Oh, we did not
Surely,
even do that.
ah,
We did not even touch that yet.
yes. I mean, can you imagine if you're gonna have a project like that? And as I said, it is heartbreaking. I don't know if you saw the aerial shots
Yeah, I
of
saw it.
where
I saw
they
it.
where they
I
they
saw
are
it.
clearing. So any environmental impact um, done would capture that, and just the irreparable damage that it would have on the forests of Dominica, and 12%, 12% of the land of Dominica is not insignificant. That's a
That's
significant
correct.
amount of land
That's
area,
a similar amount. Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
And remember too, most of our watersheds are higher up, like the Bells area, they have a watershed there. And even in the Pocas area, I mean, come on. I mean, don't think that these things can. I know what happened to the Matier Dam in Kaum some time ago, when you had soil movement taking place and no one understands this phenomenon. What was happening? And surprising, now we have that large crater, and that separate Kaum, lower Kaum and upper Kaum. And now you cannot pass. It's impassable now. You cannot pass in this area to access higher up Kaum, and that will make the whole wrong. Either you go to Cuba area or you pass in the Salisbury Heights, which of course the roads are so deplorable that no one wants to navigate this road anymore. So we must be concerned about what the experiences that we've experienced in the lower Kaum area going up to Ancaster Park. And so just what has happened there should indicate to us that we should really not interfere with our rainforest, and we should really not interfere with the pristine environment, and to cause any painful future damage to our environment. And this doesn't only impact just on the soil and the road and the river, the flora and fauna. What about river life, aquatic life, and even downstream in the sea? What happens to that? Even the coral reefs, can then get damaged. And so we these things must stop. So it's not just because of that location. We have to think of future. So we are saying we have to stop that, because it appears to me that Once it is not stopped, then the government can go and mine anywhere and excavate anywhere and to endanger what is it that we worked hard over years to build. Because you know, Doc, you are familiar with I know you love geography. And did you teach geography at one point? Did you? Did you?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, I
Right.
taught geography. Yes.
Yes. So again, you know exactly with respect to soil layers and what happens in the soil profile and what happens when you have, runoff, when you have erosion, and when you have, the interference of, soil deposits being in the river and interfering with the aquatic life. So these things you are familiar with, and the whole idea of, so because I look at the aerial shot and you would swear we had a volcanic eruption. It
Mhm.
looks like that, you know. So really and truly, the government must be more responsible. But I'm saying something, another note there. If planning did not give permission, can they stop them? If I was building a shed without permission, they would stop me. So
Yes.
yes, planning
So the
shouldn't
answer
have.
is right there. Yes, they
Yeah,
have the authority to stop them. They can.
that's right. Yeah,
But the
right.
question is, will they? Because
Will
everything is so
they?
politicized in Dominica. That's one of the problems that we have in Dominica now. You don't have any professionalism. Everything has been compromised. Government is so evasive in professional organizations, in the conduct of the way people do, because they put people in positions that they can manage and they can control. At the end of the day, the country suffers, but that would be a major, major, major mistake if that project were allowed to continue, and the costs would be irreparable, and it is too much. And just basic common sense also so tells us that if you're going to make any project, the first thing you do is to do the cost analysis, right? You do the cost analysis, you see how much is going to, what the benefits are, and you weigh those benefits against any costs,
That's all.
right? And so the question then becomes, is this government weighing the costs of what can potentially be a major environmental issue in Dominica?
And it's a very good question. The cost benefit analysis is important that they should do before. But let me just get back to the point where the planning division responsible for such activities, and under their watch, they giving guidance. So if at all they have not given permission, I don't think we have heard it from them because they have not made a statement. So that to me now, it is speculation. But to me, the ethical thing to have done is to actually write and say, look, the planning division has no affiliation in what is happening at Debuash because we have not given it any green light because we notice the environmental degradation that will be experienced in this area. So that degradation is not going to come from us, and we have not authorized any work there because knowing this area is a very sensitive area. It's part of our pristine environment. It is part of our forest reserve. It's part of everything else, and as you said, represent 12% of the area that they intend to do so. But Doc, let me weigh that with an incident that took place some years ago, because there were, I believe when the Venezuelans were doing the first development at Melvin Hall, they were coming in with equipment, and I also understood that they came in with some planting plants. And as we know that planting plants are highly susceptible to black sigatoka. And what we were told is that some plants came in, and the quarantine department at the airport stopped them and said, look, they are not allowed to come in with these plants because, they need a phytosanitary certificate. And knowing that Venezuela experienced black sigatoka, we would not allow these plants to come in to have to wreck our banana industry. Because given, knowing that plantains are highly susceptible to black sigatoka, what would happen is that once you have a plantation, black sigatoka would evade that and subsequently evade the banana fields. So the first sign you will get is from your planting field. So what I understood is that when these guys confiscated the planting plants, some call was made to a high office, and one response from the high office said, are you seeing black sigatoka there? Can you see black sigatoka? I mean, the spores are not visible. How are you going to see it? The point is, Venezuela at the time had black sigatoka. Dominica didn't have it. And so that was a high risk to have brought in those plants into Dominica. Subsequently, what happened to us? We got black sigatoka. No, mark you, I'm not accusing anybody to say, well, because the plants were brought in that we got black sigatoka. It could have come in different ways because you have different, management at the ports of entries. You have illegal people moving about from on our borders, so they could come in, leave it. We don't know. But I'm saying, at least, if that took place, then we can well be we can well be certain that it may have been as a result of these plants coming in, but we're not pointing accusation. So when you take these chances and when people do their work, that the government put their big feet in the middle of it and obstruct, that is the consequence of it. Today, what we have, we do not have a banana industry. And they blame it on black sigatoka, no mark you. That is why we don't have a banana industry. But they forgot that they authorized the planting plants to come in. So again, when we take chances with our environment, when we take chances with our economic production, like bananas and plantains, and see what is happening now, we are paying the economic price. We cannot ship. And these plants now, before they reach mature stage, they are pre-ripe. And when something is pre-ripened, it cannot be exported. And so this is the price that we pay. These are the repercussions that we face when we do things irresponsibly. So, Doc, I'm happy that you have actually sounded that call for government to actually seize the operation at Dewash.
Yeah, absolutely, and it should not be any half measure. I mean, when you look at the river, so you want to cry. I mean, why would you do such harm? And the question is, who is standing up for Dominica? These public officials should be the ones saying, no, you cannot do this. You just can't. I mean, because we do have alternatives in terms of if it is strictly to building international airport, there are lots and lots of alternatives. Okay, like I said, we just opened up 2 new quarries in Dominica. We probably have about 3 or 4 established quarries where you can get any amount of material that you need to build an international airport. So there is absolutely no excuse, no reason why you would need that area to take material from for the airport. That is why the suspicions are that they're going after the copper that is known to lie deep beneath those trees, and why we have seen all of those trees been gone, and you're seeing mud, and you're not seeing stone, you're seeing mud. There could have some material, there could have some stone, but when you look at the pictures, the majority of the area already cleared, you're seeing it is just dirt.
Yes.
So that tells me that you don't need dirt from the airport because the amount of dirt that has been extracted there already. So you don't really need dirt. What you need is the aggregates, and that can be found elsewhere. And so we would really urge the government of Dominica again. I think the people of Dominica are now demanding the immediate shutting down of that particular project.
Yes, and interestingly, in project management, you have what you call stakeholder interest, and you can have stakeholders who are dissatisfied with the way things are going on if they are not informed in as to what are the benefits and how it is that these projects are going to impact on their livelihoods and their environment. And so it would be prudent. And as you say that, look, I seen a post from someone. The government, by right, should have had meetings and informed the people of what project and to what magnitude and scope of land and percentage of trees that would be destroyed. As we are all aware, the more trees you cut, the less of water you will have. And that is a fact. And that is a fact. So that's what I was just saying about stakeholder interest. So the point is you will have stakeholders who may be negative, but based on if they see things are going properly and if they see the benefits for future, they may well fall in line. But if you neglect to involve the stakeholders, and stakeholders don't mean only the person who live in the surroundings. Talk about environmental persons who may have concern. Talk about the various groups and with river watchers, persons who have interest in just planting trees along the rivers, nature covers. So I'm talking about stakeholder meetings where you're supposed to get all and sundry involved and everyone will voice their opinion. We have not heard any of this, but we saw this, project have been ongoing for some time, and that is where sometimes you get a flack because when you start on a wrong note, then that gives a bad taste in that leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. And even if your eyes can see what is happening, then you see more of the bad than good, because no explanation as to what is happening. Nobody knows the amount of land where you have set your buffer, what percentage, if you have a period of mining, what are you looking for? Is it that you are going to mine until you get what you want? Or are you going to do sampling to know whether or not the soil that is there, if it's soil alone or soil and stone, or if you have a proper mix that you're going to get? So I think, yes, they lack a plan, and I believe all the geotechnical studies, I have not heard or seen any of these. They were not published, and I'm not too sure whether or not this project had met all of the requirements to even have a start, to even have a start, far less to even consider it going forward.
So talking about whether or not it has met any kind of standards, bear in mind as well that this project is said to be encroaching on the Central Forest Reserve. That's very important. The Central Forest Reserve was protected in 1952. All right, that's when the legislation was enacted to protect the forest reserve. In other words, a protected Central Forest Reserve means that the trees should not be cut. If you're going to do mining, if you're going to do, if you're going to cut for lumber, you're not supposed to go in those areas, because that's a protected area by Act of 1952. And the idea that you're now going into a protected forest reserve raises even more concern. All right, so the Central Forest Reserve, we know it is protected under the Forest Act, all right, the Forestry Wildlife Act of 2022. And it is done in such a way to ensure sustainable management, conservation, watershed protection, and biodiversity preservation. So in other words, the legislation that we have protecting our reserve, our natural reserve, is such that it will allow for, and I want to read those again, because that's very important. It will allow for sustainable management, conservation, watershed protection, and biodiversity preservation. In other words, you need the Central Forest Reserve to maintain Dominica as a nature island of the Caribbean, as a nature island of the world. And if you're going to tamper, if you're going to mess with the Central Forest Reserve, then you risk destroying the very land upon which we are supposed to be building and the land which we are supposed to be protecting. So again, we call upon the government of Dominica to do the right and noble thing and ensure that the land, ensure that this land is completely, or rather this project is ended immediately.
And yes, Doc, it is very important that we really stay a course there and show leadership, and we have been doing that. Doc, after Hurricane Maria, we had a torrential pour of rain, before, prior to Hurricane Maria. That is in 2015, we had Tropical Storm Erika, and we had also Hurricane Maria. And as you know, our Central Forest Reserve had been severely damaged. And what you see now is still very a tender recovery of the forest, because I'll tell you why I say so. Even when after the hurricane I passed, and what you could have seen is that you saw trees standing, but you saw rotten trees standing. But what you find happening is that vines grow on them, and you'll swear you have that nice vegetation. But what has never happened is that the government never took a chance now to actually address what they call an afforestation program. So what you had to do was to go in and plant trees. So all the rotten trees, you remove them and you would have planted. At that time, you had all the sunlight coming in. Growth would have taken place because the trees need sunlight for them to grow. And there was adequate. So the government had really gone into real, what they call afforestation program. Then what would happen is to strengthen the forest reserve. And as the person rightly said earlier, the more trees that you cut is the more you have depletion in your water resource. And so we are saying, look, what should have happened, in fact, More trees should have been planted to retain your water level. Because when you cut trees, and with what is going on right now, what was going on at the bush, it calls for actually a depletion in the water source, because you actually, when you are mining such, you're removing trees, you're removing shrubs, removing secondary shrubs, you're removing vegetation, and so we have not actually fully recovered with respect to doing a positive project, a positive afforestation project with in our forest reserve and elsewhere in Dominica, to have what they call that preservation of our soil and our water resource. So I think it's a big mistake, or it's a travesty, that we can now find ourselves doing mining to compound the problem that already existed. And so, Doc, it is really heartbreaking when you have a government that is very irresponsible and continue to break laws. Where is the government policy with respect to allowing Dominica to remain the nature island? Remember, under United Workers Party, Doc, that we had we were a world, we got being named a World Heritage Site. When you continue to provoke and interfere and injure the environment, you know what you are doing? You are actually you want the World Heritage Organization to actually withdraw the title from Dominica. We must understand, when countries get these titles, they do all their best to preserve these things. And I see our government doing injurious things for us to lose these things. And so we must not condone that kind of behavior and mismanagement by our government to actually continue to injure the environment and to actually be acting irresponsibly. We need to be more responsible for our projects. We need to have policy guidelines, and we need to be strict with respect to compliance with respect to our environment and its management. So we need to probably even revisit our environmental policy and what we stand for as a nature island, and to ensure that there are things that we can do and we cannot do, or there is also a limit in things that we can do and things that we cannot do. Doc? Sorry, I
Yes,
lost
no,
you.
absolutely. And we have some very important comments coming in. There's another one that's posted. I don't know when you want to take a look at it. And
Yes, good evening. I'm listening. I will tell all of my experience. If anyone wants to understand this, to go to Collio and look at the destruction there. The river is almost completely gone. Flooding is continuous, and the fishing has been impacted severely. We spoke about that, in terms of our aquatic life, in terms of the impact on the aquatic life. And exactly, this caller is right. This person is correct when that notice is noted. So we must be conscious of what we do. Is there any other thing, any other person?
absolutely. We have to be conscious, and the fact it happened in Collio, as you said, the river dried up, and that's exactly what we are saying. All right, and then
Yes,
we have a question there for us.
yes. Can you attempt to explain why would the government go ahead to do such damage to the forest reserve without proper independent environmental impact assessment? Well, my first initial response to that is that nobody, not the Constitution, can tell me what to do. And so we can see, based on what was, ushered, or what based on what was said before, it appears to me that it appears to all sectors, including the environment, including our financial, our CBI program, and the irresponsible behavior of the government. So in all sectors, this government continues to behave irresponsibly. And it is no surprise, Doc, that the environment now is paying the price for the mismanagement and the misdeeds and misconduct of this government.
Yes, indeed. And this person poses a very important question. Why is this government doing this? And it is clear the government does not care about the people of Dominica. I mean, and I'm not saying that lightly, because if you can embark upon such a project, knowing the potential to destroy a whole ecosystem, to destroy a river, to destroy the livelihoods of some persons downstream, and you're still embarking on it blindly, it tells me that you don't care about the people of Dominica. And as you said, so this idea that no law, no constitution, you can embark on a project without an environmental survey, you can do it infringing against the very laws of this country. It just shows the callous, careless, and really don't give a damn behavior of this government. And that is not good for us. That's not good for a country. And so that's why we keep telling the Dominican public that they need to get rid of this administration. That at the next election, you absolutely have to get, I mean, they're prepared to destroy your country. They're prepared to destroy Dominica to the point where it becomes unrecognizable. And at the end of the day, you wonder, why are you even making those decisions? We have had issues already in the airport. No one has seen the environmental impact survey that has been done for this international airport. And now we have another one that is infringing upon not only the lands, but infringing upon the laws of Dominica in direct violation to the Central Reserve portion of this country. And it is like business as usual. And let me also state as well, the idea that you are halting the project to go and talk. Who are you talking to? The evidence is already there. Now we're going to attempt to go and consult. So what you're going to ask the people of Pig One Concord, are they really suffering from the loss of the river? What are you going to ask them?
Yeah.
The evidence is there. It is in your face. It is there for every person to see the tremendous amount of environmental damage that has been done in the Debauche area. On the strength of that evidence, that project should be shut down immediately and forever. Period.
That's correct. Yeah, so here's another comment. This here is not a matter of politics, and I'll agree, of course, it's not a matter of politics. This is our responsibility as a people. We must do something, and action must be taken by the people in the area as well as all people on the island. Look at the entrances of the Lai River. It is a dying environment, and that is a fact. And Doc, not only just about just the mining and the consequences of erosion and runoff, but also to remember when you have high activity taking place in terms of this excavation, you have high fuel usage and you have seepage obviously going in the rivers and again affecting aquatic life. You have again seepage of fuel on the streets and on the streets on the streets, and then that will obviously posing a threat to motorists because oil and rubber, which is our tire, cannot mix. So when you're looking for bricks one day going down there, you know what is going to happen. So all of these things really must be considered, and just the mere fact that you can just go and just put wounds in nature doesn't cut it well for us. We are the nature island of this of the Caribbean, for God's sake. And why is the government so stubborn and so defiant in its actions that it cannot find it fit and necessary to actually work in the people's interest and to just hold this project? It is not good for us there. This is not the place for this. We have to at least preserve what we have. It's nature we have known ourselves to be, and we have to remain nature and natural. So that is what we know. So for God's sake, and for the sake of the people of Dominica, and for the sake of preserving the award that we won under the United Workers' Party, but Dominica became a World Heritage Site in 1997, I think. Lord help us to preserve this award. Because if at all we continue in this haphazard way of putting wounds in nature and endangering the environment, obviously we can be stripped this title, and we are concerned. So I am with you on this, where you are actually calling for not just a temporary halt, but a total halt of this project. And let us get back this area to actually, grow its nice vegetation. And right now we should even think of a serious, urgent, and to expedite what they call an afforestation project to have trees being restored and to contain and preserve our water source in this area, because as we know, it is close to the Central Reserve, and also we might well be endangering our water catchments. So, Doc, as we winding down the curtain on this program, just your final words.
Well, yes, someone is saying that no project of cutting down of trees should be allowed on Crown land. I certainly agree with that sentiment, especially where the Crown land is protected by Act, as it is in this case, as part of our Central reserve, and then this other individual is saying that in your view, why would this government go ahead and do such damage to the forest reserve without a proper independent ESIA? Does the people of Dominica have some responsibility for such behavior? And the answer is yes, but it appears to me that we are just taking it, that we are not speaking up, we're not speaking out, or if we are, we're not doing it loudly enough. And we have to hold this government to account. After all, this is all we have. This little 30-mile by 15-mile rock is all we have. And we need to find a way to preserve it so that we can live peaceably and we can maximize it to the best in terms of how much we get out of it. But we cannot do it if we are destroying it at the same time. And that project at Daymarsh is clearly meant to destroy the forest reserve of Dominica. It is clearly meant to destroy our ecosystem, destroy the river, destroy even the balance that we have in this country. And we are calling upon the government again to immediately to this project. We are calling upon the physical planning division, the head of the physical planning unit, to do what it is that they swore an oath to protect Dominica and to act, to move very quickly and smoothly to stop that project. We cannot allow that to continue. We cannot allow the damage to continue. We cannot allow what we are seeing, this environmental debacle, this environmental damage that has been wrought upon our beautiful nature out of Dominica. It must stop, and it must stop now.
Yes, so thank you, Doug. Let me thank you for your time and thank everyone who have participated. Thank everyone who has participated tonight. But the best way to put it down, I see your comment, which is very interesting. Best way to put on the container, it says that forests are living guarantees of our water. Every tree root, leaf, and patch of soil work together to purify what we drink and sustain all life. Irreparable destruction is being done to our rivers, our wetlands in Cabrit's National Park under pressure. Now the Central Forest Reserve, our river source being bulldozed, communities' livelihood are in serious trouble. The environmental damages are against our Creole lifestyles. This I must agree and say yes to. So let me thank everyone, and I'm seeing there again just to end finally. Only when the last tree has died and the last river been poisoned and the last fish been caught, then we realize that we can't eat money. Take from Joel Paris' page. Okay, so that is it, Doc, for Real Talk tonight, today, the 8th of December, and we are slowly approaching Christmas. And we hope that everyone will have a lovely Christmas. And I hope that the government has heeded to our call where we ask for incentives for our people to put some duty-free aside so that people can shop and shop to the max so that they can increase their food basket with a little bit of value, because if duties are off, and give them a good time to actually benefit from those duties, not just now for now, because we will not see the immediate effect. So we have asked for that. And tonight's program again is another assurance of our continued education and our continued interaction with persons using social media platform. So we want to thank everyone who has participated tonight. And we thank you for your many contributions. We thank you for your suggestions. And look, let me thank you for the work that you continue to do. And I know I forget to read my young friend, young person comment, say, well, again, this is, this is another interesting area of concern. And tell Doc we are listening. I think we are really, really getting a lot of information with respect to what is happening. We ourselves, we have seen the aerial view of what is taking place in Daymarsh. And because of what you are bringing to light tonight, we are better able to understand what is happening. So we want to thank you, Doc, for the good work that you do. And rest assured that, Doc, that you have our support. We are a young crew, hoping to wrap up with you before the year end. We need to have a meeting with you privately to share our young people concerns and perspectives for Better Dominica. So I'll get in contact with you and you can arrange this meeting. So, Doc, here it is again that young people are again having interest in what we have to say. And they tell you good night. They have said to you good night, and they said that sometime in the future, before the year closes, that they would like to have a small brief with you.
All right, excellent. Thanks much, and we'll certainly do that. And good night.
So good night. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. God bless. Until next time.